Hello and welcome to another episode of DAWNCast. I'm Dai Lee.
And I'm Kathy Ngo.
And this afternoon we've got a wonderful, wonderful woman, Toni Lontis. Now, after 35 years in nursing across many specialties and levels of health, Toni sat down in 2018 to write about her life. Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl, is a book about a woman discovering her own strength and beauty. So welcome to DAWNCast, Toni.
Welcome, Toni, to the show.
Thank you so much, lovely ladies. What a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Yes. So tell us about your book. Why did you start it?
Writing Resilience was the culmination of probably about 10 years of hard work and healing after a whole series of traumatic events. So I was born with a preauricular sinus, which is a facial defect, and that resulted in permanent damage to the left side of my face, in particular my left-sided facial nerve. And that left me with residual paralysis that continued into my 40s. In my 40s, the lower side of my face started to heal, and I started to have a dimple and a bit better of a smile in my 40s. And my 40s was also a time where I started to do some of that hard work on myself in terms of healing from all of the traumas that I'd been through. And I'd had a dysfunctional family upbringing, the trauma of my face, and then went on to have elements of domestic violence, sexual abuse, divorce, miscarriage, all the things that can go wrong in life and that leave a traumatic imprint, culminating with a major breakdown and diagnosis of major depressive disorder and anxiety back in 2007. And so at the end of that, in 2017, 2018, as I started to gradually talk a little bit more about what I'd been through and what I'd healed from, people suggested that I should write a book. And that's precisely what I set out to do in 2018. The result is Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl Discovering a Woman of Strength and Beauty. And it highlights and talks about all of those tough things and difficult places that I'd been in. And it was written from a place of healing, hope, and happiness. And my desire was just to show that you can go through an enormous amount of pain and come out the other side and have a wonderful, healthy, happy life.
2018 wasn't too long ago, and I can imagine some of those experiences would have been really traumatic. So how difficult was it to write? Or was it just, it was just basically everything that just flowed through the pages? Like, how did you write a book like in such a traumatic experience?
It was difficult to write, and there was lots of soul searching involved. So basically the way that I approached it was to start with probably the most traumatic and most recent trauma, and that's where I started. And then I sort of wrote backwards and forwards, and at the end of all that, then I sort of put it into a format of chronologically what had happened. It was, despite being difficult and challenging to write, it was cathartic and healing, and I felt like I had let go of a lot of the pain associated with those memories, and I wanted to then be able to use what I'd been through to show and help others, and also that education component of wanting people to understand that this is what happens when you're in a vulnerable state, and as a woman in particular, how vulnerability opens you up to predators, let's essentially say. And I wanted people to understand that this is what trauma can leave in your life and how to confront it and deal with it. And I'd love to make sure that other young women don't go through some of the things that I did. And if reading the book helps them to not go through some of those things, that would be amazing.
When was that moment though, Toni? Because people experience trauma. People, as you've described, being abused and dysfunctionality. But sometimes, you get so in that world that you don't actually see that's happening to you.
Yes.
When was that moment
Correct.
when you kind of said, "Hang on, this got to stop. I've actually got to take control of
Yes.
my life and turn this around"?
Yes. I think that was probably a period of about 6 weeks, and that critical time would have been from the day my 18-year-old daughter disclosed to me the history of sexual abuse that she had been suffering, and she told me
Oh
2
gosh.
weeks before I was about to marry the man that she'd suffered the abuse from. That was the lowest and worst point in my life. And so from that point and on that day, I had to make some decisions. One of those was that enough. I've had enough. It's not going to go on. I'm going to love my daughter unconditionally, no matter what, come what may. And I'm going to get through this, heal myself, and try my hardest to make sure others don't suffer in the same way. And so that 6 weeks after that horrible moment on that day, and in that next 6 weeks, when I hit true rock bottom and wondered whether I should actually be alive, those were the hardest. And I guess it was my resilience and my stubbornness that said, no more. Life is not going to be like this. And started to work out how to heal myself and how to get through this trauma.
You mentioned earlier that you are helping a lot of people as well, because no doubt like this, trauma is quite, a lot of people experience trauma in one way or another.
Yes.
So how have people responded to your story and also your book as well?
So I'm going to be really, really honest here. So the majority of the population are amazingly supportive, wonderful, kind. I've got beautiful letters from men in their 70s who've said, reading your book gave me the courage to write my own story. Many conversations along those lines. Lots of lovely support from women who've been in domestic violence, lots of wonderful support from people who've suffered sexual abuse. The hardest part has been the fallout from family who have decided that I had no right to tell my story and had no right to talk about family dysfunction. And so that's been the hardest and the hardest to deal with. But ahead of all that is my desire for people to understand what happens to our brains when they've been traumatized, what happens to our thinking patterns when we've been traumatized, and to try and realize and be gentle, kind, and loving with themselves when they are in these situations, and to protect themselves so that they don't go into the next situation, because that's what happens. You know, girls, from talking to people, that domestic violence, some women go from one situation to the next in a perpetual cycle. The reason that is because trauma changes the way that your brain functions, and it changes the way that you think. And you have to do the hard work and soul searching to stop that pattern. And again, you can do that. It is hard work, but we need to understand that that's what happens in our brains when trauma's involved.
I mean, there is a lot of talking about domestic violence. That is such it's a topic, current
Horrible.
topic,
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
topic, you've
Yeah.
got government agencies, you've got police, and you've got many organisations now having a policy around domestic violence.
Yes.
How helpful are those, do you think? I mean, as you've just mentioned, it traumatizes you and your brain thinks
Hmm.
and behave a certain way.
Yes.
Really, do you think it comes down at the end of the day to the individual to make that final decision to say this is enough, just like you did?
I do think, absolutely, I think that it comes down to the individual. But for some women, no one's ever said to them that they have that power within them. No one's ever shown them or talked to them or allowed them to think that they can change the situation. So that's about the education. And I will really believe that we need to, and I don't disclude men from this conversation, but I'm thinking for our young women, if we could have some of this education in the senior levels of school and in young women's groups where we openly talked about what violence looks like, what treatment of women that should not be tolerated, and openly had those conversations and that education, that would go a long way to helping stop the problem before it gets to murdering of beautiful women and their children.
And I think sometimes when you're in that situation, you don't know that it is domestic violence, because domestic
Correct.
abuse comes in so many different forms. It could be emotional or
Correct.
not just physical as well.
Yes,
So
you're
Toni,
so right.
what are you doing at the moment? So are you basically coaching others, or what sort of work are you doing at the moment?
So, in a roundabout way, after I wrote the book, I embarked on the production of the audiobook, and that led to a conversation about my voice, which then led to an online radio show, which has now led to multiple online radio shows. And so now I like to tell people's stories, whether that's a personal story or a business story, because I believe everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has something to say, and I help them say it with online radio. So this week I have another 7 live shows, either
Wow.
hosted or co-hosted with me, and I love to do that. I love to show up as this imperfect middle-aged girl with a journey in life, and that gives me a lot of insight into people's lives and the ability to tell their stories in a loving and loving way that gets their message across. And so that also goes into, I help businesses with their messaging and getting their brand out into the world. And of course, online radio is not such a big deal in Australia, but it's massive in America, and that's where the base of our listeners are, but they are spread across the world. Apparently there's equal numbers in Germany and Russia that listen to our shows as well, so that's a fascinating insight into what online radio can do for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
You do have a great voice, by the
Yes,
way.
it's called
really,
radio voice.
it's just
Oh.
really calming. Like,
Yeah.
did you always have this sort of voice, or did you do any voice coaching training or whatever it is?
Nothing, Kathy. It was a chance comment when the producer of the audiobook finally convinced me to narrate my book myself, because I was going to pay a voice actor to do it. She said, no, I really want you to do it. And this went backward and forward for like a couple of months before this introverted, quiet woman thought, okay, take a deep breath. What have I got to lose? And Simone promised that she would help me and get me through it. And she did. And at the end of it, she's like, I could listen to your voice for ages. It's very calming. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And then I just, yeah. So who knows what can happen when you get to your 50s? Start a whole new career.
That's so beautiful.
Hey, 'cause life begins at 50.
Is that
I
right?
agree.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, then I can't
yes.
wait.
Yeah.
It's I see. Di will tell you that there's something about a woman in your 50s. You no longer care
That's
what
it.
people think. Number one,
Yeah.
number two, you've got a hell of a lot of life experience and wisdom that gives you confidence to say what you think and to challenge others on what they think. And mostly, your children are grown or semi-grown, and there's a freedom around what you can do with your life. So yes, absolutely, women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, they're going to rock the world.
Yes, that's going to be us, Tony. Um, look,
Yeah.
you touched upon having a dysfunctional family. By the way, I have too.
Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
growing in a single parent household, and coming here as a refugee and learning the English.
Yes.
So it's really all of the struggles that migrants and refugees and women like myself and
Yeah.
have experienced. So do you think? uh, I put this, I guess, how much of your upbringing really influences the path that you've taken, and sometimes it could be the an upbringing such as having a dysfunctional, family upbringing
Yes.
that's really leads it
Yes.
down to that path. Is that how you
Yes.
you see it as well?
Look, I do. I see it that your parents did the best job that they knew how to do with the skills and information that they had. And I've worked really hard on forgiveness and understanding. And it's from that point of forgiveness and understanding that I started to delve into why I did the things that I did, why I had a problem with alcohol, why I went in search of drugs, why I went in search of promiscuous relationships. All of those things can be tied back to a lack of self-esteem, a feeling of not being loved or accepted, and some generational stuff. And when you start to look at yourself and look honestly and openly at the flaws and the mistakes in your life, you start to see what's behind those things. So, yes, dysfunctional family contributes, but what you do with that is all your choice. And it starts between your ears in your mind. It starts with that self talk and the way that you talk to yourself and the way that you feel about yourself. You can change that. So it doesn't matter what upbringing you have, you can change that. That's in your control and in your power. And I wish someone had told me that when I was in my 20s.
Tell me about. We were just discussing today with
Yeah.
one of the volunteers, and we were talking about who've supported us and understanding her
Yes.
situation and thinking, how much can you actually give them that advice in terms of self
Yes.
empowerment, in terms of building self confidence, but at the end of the day, it's that
Yes.
information has to go
Yes.
into your own head, and you then have to take action.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It comes down to a decision that you make about the action that you'll take. And no one's going to hold your hand or tell you what to do. You've got to work it out yourself, and you can work it out yourself. And the more that you step into any sort of self-development, any counseling, any therapy, that's going to help you improve your life and improve the way you think about life and the way that you think about yourself. And again, if I could teach all teenage girls about the importance of self-love and self-care before they left home, what a wonderful world we would live in, because you can't help anyone else unless you help yourself first.
Mm.
That is so true. So I'm interested in your radio career right now by accident. Was
Yeah.
there any, because I mean, it happens so quickly from
Yeah.
2018 to now. It's just in like less than
Yeah.
2 years. So have there been any moments or any setbacks during that period? Because I mean, it was a new career. So, and then how did you manage that as well?
Oh, gosh. So lots of things happened. So I think for the first 6 months that I got behind my microphone every week for my first show, I would be physically sick. So I had to, like, I was so worried about what people would think. What would I say? Did I have anything to say? And then as I started to work through all of that stuff, I realized that by being imperfectly me and just being me, because no one else can be Toni, only I can be Toni, and the world and the people who listen, they're the ones that need the information that I talk about on radio. So it became less about me and what was wrong with me and more about the information and knowledge I had that I could give to people to help them with their life, to educate them about life. And so that was one of the tough things, was getting over my nerves and my introverted self. And then the next thing was learning about the different platforms and making a few mistakes about the amount of money that I paid for those platforms. And then realizing that there's a whole range of technology out there that you can use, and picking what technology works for me and works for the way that I like to work. So lots of journeying, lots of learning, and I am still learning. I'm learning every day and trying to improve what I do every single day. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as I'm keeping on learning and transferring that knowledge to others, I'm a happy girl.
And how do you said you do it weekly, how do you find the time?
Yeah.
So obviously it's something that you just do, this is what you do now, and so it's something that you do on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and you prepare for all of that by
Yes.
yourself?
So I've had, again, huge growth, particularly this year already, and I've learned so much, and some of that is around time management, quarantining time in my diary for downtime, being organised, using technology to assist. So technology that automates your emails, technology that sends you reminders, an electronic calendar booking system, and being very strict with my diary. So these are the days that I have appointments available. These are the days that I prep for the next week's shows, and etc. So being quite organised, very strategic in what I do when, and yes, quite a lot of work, and it does leave me a little breathlessly busy from time to time, but I'm loving it. I'm loving the journey, and I'm loving the learning at my age. I never thought that I would be actively learning so much so quickly about radio, internet, marketing, promotion, advertising, sound, etc., etc.
So have you stopped, the 35 years in the health sector? Uh, is that, are
Yeah.
some of those skills transferable, or or have you kind of seen?
Well, I was thinking about it the other day. So I've actually let my nursing license and registration go. So that was a big step for me in thinking this has to work now because I've got no fallback plan.
Oh,
And that's always a big motivator for me. So I let go of my consulting company. I stopped my nursing, let go of my registration, and thought, right, this has to work. And yes, there are lots of skills
hang
that I
on.
learned in
That's
nursing. So
sorry, hold on. There's some technical. You just dropped out quite a bit. You said you 35. Start again. 35 years. You're letting go of your nursing license.
yeah,
Oh, that's
so
better.
when I let go, of that nursing license, that was a crucial point, because it's like, yeah, no plan B. This has to work. I have to make this work. I have to turn this into an income generation for me and the next 20 or 30 years, because let's face it, we're going to live wonderful lives into our 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Our generation die,
I know.
you know, and Kathy's generation's probably their 90s and 100s. So, you know,
You want to live that long?
I'm
You can
60.
stay-
What are you talking about?
Oh.
And yes, nursing skills are transferable. So I was in the operating theatre, so I've kind of got that fast-paced, organised mindset already from nursing, so that helps a lot. I genuinely care about people,
Yeah.
and I'm a good listener, and I love to connect with people and find out their stories, so that also helps being a radio interviewer. And lots of the stories from nursing. So, you know, thinking about the bullying surgeons or the bossy doctors or any of that sort of stuff, that transfers into real life because it doesn't just happen in health and hospitals. It happens across the world. So lots of those learnings are transferred into what I do now. But yes, would I have ever thought about being on radio?
Yeah.
No. But then the universe had other ideas.
So obviously, I mean, I was going to ask, you know, you've shared some of your lowest moments in your
Yes.
personal life.
Mm-hmm.
What about some of the lowest moments on your journey to, you know, start, you know, Radio
Yes.
Tony, to
Yeah.
write your book, and to do this business? What were some of those were there lowest moments in at those times as well?
I think those lowest, deepest, darkest, black, I'm gonna die moments were the ones in the aftermath of the disclosure. And I had an amazing GP. And one of the things he said to me was that your brain is tired, your mind is worn out, and some days all you're going to be able to do is breathe in and breathe out one moment at a time. And that actually became a mantra to get me through those toughest times, and I still use it today. When the going gets tough, I only have to think about one moment at a time, and that's just breathing in and breathing out. And that gets me through a lot of the tough times. In being new in the entrepreneurial space is fraught with those thoughts of, am I good enough? Who the hell do I think I am? Who the heck is listening? And again, it's like you've got to back yourself against all odds, back yourself, believe in yourself, and just keep going. Just take action, even if that's one little action a day. And sometimes it is one little action a day. Just keep taking those small steps. And eventually you'll get to a point in time and you'll look back and go, wow, I've really done a lot. I've come a long way and it's okay. And that's all you want from life. You know, you want to set that example that it's tiny, constant action that will get you to the place that you want to go. And the other thing is getting very clear on my bigger vision and my bigger purpose and my passion in life.
So what is your purpose?
Yes. What's that passion in
So
life?
I had
What's the fire?
What fuels you?
I've had this mission for a long time, and that is to create beauty within myself and others with humility and love. That's it.
Beautiful. Simple and beautiful.
Yeah. And that when I'm making a difficult decision, having that mission, you just go back to it and does this fit with my mission? If it doesn't, then let it go, because not everything is meant for you, just as not all the people that you meet are your people. And you just need to let go of what is not meant for you and let go of people that are not meant for you and keep doing your thing. And I guess, again, that comes back to this beautiful age that Di and I are in, where you start to
Hang
so
on,
I feel in my
sorry. There was a lot of interference, so you need to go back to let go of people. As you were saying that, I can feel my body letting go. As you're saying letting go, I thought, okay, let go of that person. Let go of that person. Were you doing that?
Yeah.
No, when you were talking about breathing, I was like,
Yeah. So believe it or not, as you were saying those things, I was actioning that in my body.
Yeah, our bodies responding.
Yeah. But go back to you were saying about letting
So
go.
simple.
Yeah.
So simple and so powerful. I can't tell you the number of times that breathing has got me through an incredible panicked moment, a moment when I feel incredibly flawed, that moment when I make a mistake that impacts on something that I'm doing, or that moment when you just don't feel good enough. Breathe in, breathe out, and be grateful. I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm okay. It's going to be okay. That positive affirmation that it's always going to be okay. Bad things always pass, they never last forever. Bad feelings pass, they never last forever. They will pass. This too shall pass.
I was about to say that.
And you had a feeling you were just like,
Did you see my body?
yeah, your body.
Because I was going to say, I often say to myself, or sometimes I do share on social media saying, this too shall pass. There was this post that I did I don't know if I shared it yet, but it says, this too shall pass. Even though it's painful like passing a kidney stone, it will pass.
Yes.
I saw that.
Did you see that? Did I share that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
so your story, your radio, what you do, it's you're trying to send a message out, especially to get that message out to women, especially women in domestic violence.
Yes.
Do you yourself get support to do what you do? Like, do you fill your own cup for yourself as well? And how do you do that?
Yes. So I am very lucky to have an incredibly supportive husband and 2 adult children who are incredibly loving and supportive. I have a tiny handful of girlfriends and a bigger group of beautiful women friends like Di. Like I
know.
there's
How do we
so
discover
many
each other?
I know. There's just special women out there that you connect to and you just have an instant synergy of feeling and relationship.
Yeah.
And I would count Di as one of those people.
Thank you.
So it's in talking and connecting with those beautiful other people. And for me, I'm an introvert, believe it or not. And I need to fill my cup with quiet, alone time. And we live on a rural acreage property. I have a beautiful garden, an orchard, 2 llamas, 7 goats, 2 dogs, a couple of ducks and a chicken. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed, all I need to do is walk outside, walk down to the goats and sit with them. Goats are my spirit animal and they fill my cup up. So, and then the other part of that is just making sure that you have time to have lunch with a girlfriend, cuppa with a friend. Those sorts of things, simple things, but they're important. And a core group of people that you can rely on for advice and understanding when going gets tough. Because it's always going to get tough.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always going to be someone, yeah.
I love how you've got llamas.
And sleep.
And sleep is very important. I love how you've got lots of animals, and I personally find the same as well. Like pets are therapy.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. Like they
Definitely.
don't judge. They just look at you with love
No.
and kindness. And
Yes.
We don't have llamas.
There's
we
nothing
don't.
quite.
But I have a llama
Yeah.
quilt. It doesn't count. But yeah.
Llamas are very cuddly. I have to tell you, Avocado, our white boy, he's white with beautiful brown spots all over him. He's a real cuddler. So they've got long necks like giraffes, and he'll wind his neck around your neck and snuggle in.
Oh.
So they're good for the soul.
Don't they spit at you?
No, they only spit. Alpacas spit at humans. Llamas
Alpacas.
only spit at goats or other llamas, and that's only if they're eating their food.
Right. Okay.
Such gentle souls.
Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
So do you? I mean, what's important for you now? Like, where to for you, with what you're doing? Obviously, you're continuing with radio, Toni. But
Yes.
what are you up to next?
So at the moment, my business is in that growth stage. So it's about partnering with more business and business people and helping them get their brand across the world. It's about mentoring and helping people to get into online radio if that's what they like. I've got a number of online courses that are in varying stages. So one of those is to be released in September, fingers crossed. That's online radio and podcasting. And then I want to do as you would understand, I'm pretty passionate about mental health. So there's a number of courses around mental health. Once we get through whatever COVID world looks like, I will hopefully get back to my tours of the Philippines, where we go and sponsor feeding programs in Manila and help to build houses and hospitals, and then go and spend some time with that whole concept of self-nurturing, massage and working on your mindset and helping people overcome fears, that sort of thing. And yes, she's very successful, so I can help more people.
The what do you call it? Sorry,
the internet gremlins.
Yes, the gremlins. Gremlins interfered again.
Yeah.
We heard you were going to the Philippines and rebuilding and doing all these wonderful things.
And then you got to the point about looking after yourself, and then it's just the gremlin started to say, "No, we're not going to let her share that part."
No looking after yourself.
No, the gremlin says, "No, we're not going to let you look after yourself."
It's like, how dare you?
But we got a gist. The gist
I think the other part. The other part of the Philippines tour is about self-rejuvenation. So once they've experienced, my tour participants have experienced that social conscious portion of the tour, then we do the self-nurturing, massage, Reiki, yoga, and some little workshops around fears and conquering fear and mindset and that sort of stuff. So I hope that we can get those back on track in 2021.
Yeah, God, I think everybody is hoping to travel again as well in 2021. It has been very kind of, it has affected so many people.
Random question.
Yes.
Do you do goat yoga?
Yes.
Because it's like a new thing at the moment. It's trendy.
What?
Goat yoga.
Goat yoga?
Goat yoga.
So you do yoga with goats.
You can.
Yeah.
They're cheeky, are they? The only thing is that you have to do it with baby goats, because as the goats get bigger, they get heavier. So baby goats are definitely much better to do yoga with. My goats are older, and yes, they're very athletic animals. They're funny. They do funny things, and they do all sorts of jumps and twists and hijinks in the air. So, yeah, goat yoga. Lots of people ask me about goat yoga, but no, my goats don't do yoga. Could they? Probably.
This is the first time that I've heard about goat yoga, but thank you, Catherine,
Maybe
for
we'll bring in some goats.
to do
Yeah.
some yoga here. But look, thank you so much for your time, Toni. In terms of your book, obviously it's available online. Is that right? It's an ebook.
On my website, I've got two websites,
Yep.
ToniLontis.com, RadioToni.com, books on both sites or on Amazon.
Okay, we will definitely have those links in this podcast when we share it.
Thank you.
It'll probably be about in a few weeks' time.
Yes.
But we will definitely share
Yes.
this. But look, thank you so much for coming on to DAWNCast and sharing your story. I hope that we can collaborate together somehow. I don't know.
I hope I can get to Sydney to see you in person, Di. That would be great,
that would be
wouldn't
awesome. But I can actually fly up to North as long
Yes.
as the Queensland Premier allows New South Wales residents to travel in, especially we're from the hot spot in the southwest. Apparently, we're
I
not
know.
allowed. But as soon as the border is lifted, the
Yes.
walls come down.
Yes.
We're going to run.
We'll be
Yes.
up there. We'll be up there.
Yeah.
I'll be up there for sure.
Because it's coming into a beautiful time of year on the Gold Coast where it's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who knows?
What's the situation with your COVID thing up there? Is COVID that bad? No, it's not, is it? Because
Not
it's
in
hot.
not
Because
in
it's tropical. Because
Queensland.
it's tropical. My theory is that COVID cannot survive in tropical climate. That's my theory.
See, we
Can't
haven't
comment.
got much in the way of infection up here.
No.
So I guess the Premier just wants to keep it that way so that people have the opportunity to travel to the islands and all the rest that Queensland has to offer. But yes, she's effectively saying that the borders are going to stay closed for however long.
Oh, well, we won't see each other for a while then.
So disappointing.
I know, but we will. We will meet.
We shall meet again.
We shall meet
Definitely.
again. So thank you so much once again, Toni, for your time. That was Toni Lontis, everybody, author of Resilience, Memoir of a Broken Little Girl. We will share the link where you can get the book, and also she presenter of Radio Toni. And again, we'll share some of the links, to Toni's work. You've been listening to DAWNCast, and if you like the story and you would like us to grow, please click on the link below and subscribe to our channel DAWNCast. I'm Di Lee.
And I'm Kathy Ngo. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Talk to you soon. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You
Thank
better
you so
turn
much,
up.
ladies.
You better be there when I shake. Watch me rocking if I can't stop. If I should fall, just go ahead. Go